I want to bring on now Valerie Morgan and then Carol Mcgrath and Beverly, because as we've said, many people have been on the edge or hanging on by a thread, and some have gone away and come back. We got Takis, and then we got Miss Carol, and then we're going to have Beverly. And I want you guys to talk from the perspective of, you know what y'all know what I want y'all to say. Go ahead, Takis.
Thank you, and hello to everyone here on this afternoon or morning for someone somewhere. Thank you. I am in Paulding County, Georgia, and I grew up in the southeast of Georgia. I grew up as a Baha'i, and I left the Baha'i community after experiencing some level of prejudice, I would like to say now. I'm still learning different terms to better fit what my experience was. It had to do with some level of race. I don't want to say that it was racist or racism, but it was something that made me not want to participate in Baha'i activities anymore. So I left the faith and became a Christian. And I spent 20 years outside of the world of Baha'i. Last year, during the 2020 Arise Podi conference and pandemic, I began to lean in, because even though I wasn't participating, my son was participating in Baha'i activities, because I always loved the youth programming. And he got to spend some time with his grandmother, who is a Baha'i, and that was helpful via the Ruhi books and items that are being shared with the junior youth groups and children's classes. He's had an opportunity to have an introduction to the Baha'i world. With me not participating, but having no choice but to lean in and listen in, because you only have so many rooms in a house, and you can't help but overhear the conversations and discussions. Well, I was invited to the Arise conference, and that's where I first ever learned or heard the term pupil of the eye. I had never heard it before, and I'm really thankful for it, and even more so thankful for the conference, because at that time, that's where I was able to gain some understanding of the hurt that I experienced, why I was hurt or traumatized, or felt some kind of way about even wanting to work alongside or come together with any of the other Baha'is in the community outside of my immediate family. And with that, and with the conference, and then with the murder of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and the list keeps going on and on, those protests that occurred on last year, my original thought was, where are the Baha'is? I don't see the Baha'is. Where are the Baha'is? The Baha'is should be front and center in the activities that are going on. And I began to lean in a little more. And I asked my mother to share a little more about the different spaces that were available. And so I'm thankful for Zoom and our virtual platform, because this past year has been beyond empowering. It's been life-changing, knowing who I am and having a better understanding. And then I said, perhaps had I known or understood the term pupil of the eye as a youngster coming up in the community, maybe I would not have left the community, because at that point I would have known more about who I am and the calling that we have on our lives, each as individuals. Sodi, Podi, we all have a calling on, and we all have a place. I didn't know what that place was until attending or initiating the learnings with Ms. Talley and the conference, and having people like Derek Smith and those others that she has, so many different speakers to come out and share with us about things that we should know, need to know, and can can learn to expand our communities. Well, we fast forward our talk and understanding of where I am. I actually rejoined and recommitted to the Baha'i faith. I submitted my declaration a few months ago and have become a Baha'i again, but to bring it even more full circle, I never left the community. I kind of just took a little excursion or trip around the world, being baptized in pools and rivers and valleys, and having an opportunity to learn more about the Christian world. And now I see that I'm just able to bring back some of that experience to our community now. So we have been able to connect with the Baha'is in my area. We don't have, I'm in a small town, so we do not have an assembly, but we do have a cluster, and I am in communication with them and the folks that are next door to me as well. This level of communication and community, camaraderie, and love of people that are in my space and area, I have been empowered to start another activity to invite and welcome in people in my immediate surroundings with the expanding of the nucleus program that we have going on across the country. So I'm thankful to have that going on, and also to participate and promote a special blood drive for our pupil of the eye, so that we can assist and offer support to those that are suffering from sickle cell anemia, which is also a disease that impacts largely in numbers people of the eye. So we have this one campaign. I really would not have initiated this campaign had it not been for the Arise 2019 conference. And of course, my son and I would not be in a different space from where we were previously. So it's just a matter of timing that the letter that came out, it could not have come out at a more perfect time, at least for me and my family, so that we can move and pursue those goals that God has in store for us, and do exactly what is stated in the letters, to take our place and to take more action in what we should be doing, and bringing more folk into the faith and just loving on people. So I appreciate that. And it's more of, though I left out for a moment or a brief history in time, we are, I feel, at the right place. We're now in the right place at the right time, and with the Baha'is of this world. So thank you so much for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Taki. And I want people to know that we have these conferences. Some people will do their study at Foundation Hall University. Some people come every Black Friday. And Taki, I want you to put the campaign information in the chat box, so if people want to be a part of the campaign so that we can save some lives. Black people make up 13.2% of the population, but yet we're giving about 3% of the blood. And after COVID, it's about 2.3%. And so people that even babies 6 months old can have sickle cell and be in excruciating pain, and only a blood transfusion can help. And they're so low on blood. Over 50% of African Americans have O positive blood, which means their blood, we have a universal blood type. Talk about saving the world. Our blood can go to anybody, O negative, A, B, A, whatever it is. But an A person can't give to an O. An AB can't give to an O. So basically, most, at least half of Black people, pupils of the eye, have a universal life-saving blood, which means that when they have sickle cell, they really need a match. So, Taki, we've got this campaign going on from now and through into September. So please put that information in there. What I'm trying to give you, when people say, what's Cody? I'm like, how much time do you have? You know, I can't put it in a few words because it's like this thing that morphs and grows and whatever it is. And so, and I want to say that what we do is we keep nurturing each other. So every Friday night, Taki's there at Black Friday. In fact, I'm with Taki almost every morning at 7 a.m. for dawn prayers, where we study the life of Abdu'l-Baha for the last 90 days. So we don't just go to one space and it's a conference, it's over. No, our lives are now intertwined. We know about each other. We come together. We pray together. We learn together. And so we're family. And the family continues to expand. I want to bring on now Carol Mcgrath. Carol Mcgrath, because he was another one that said, I didn't know I hadn't heard of Pody. And so I asked Carol one day, Carol, when did you hear about Pupil of the Eye? She said, when you told me. I was like, oh, because Carol is beautiful, beautiful. Carol is 80 years old. She's responsible for the town that she lives in California to get the sundown laws knocked down. She teaches every day. Carol, could you in a few minutes tell us a little bit about your Pody story? What is it? What did this Pody movement mean to you, and how has it moved you?
Oh, yeah, Baha'u'llah Pa. Guess it would have to start with COVID, being isolated. I've been isolated all my life. I've been the Lone Ranger all my life. I'm always the only Black one in my neighborhood, the only Black person in my community. I've been in 2 different Baha'i communities, and I'm it. And it's been really difficult. I had no one to relate to, no friends. Because the Baha'i faith had a culture of whiteness in those days. Because of Foundation Hall and Barbara's work and other people's work, we're coming up to the surface. But I don't know about any of you, but in my community, I was never seen. I was seen, but in a negative way. Anyway, I heard about Foundation Hall and I went on there and I was crying and I was screaming. It was the first time I had a place to talk about my pain. And I could feel it coming out of my heart. Bam, 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 bam. And then I heard a voice say, well, why don't you teach Black people? Don't worry about your community. And I never left. I must be a masochist because I never left. I kept trying to pray and make it better. I would cry before I went to feast and cry when I came home because it was such a horrible place to be. And my community is unique in that it is in Glendale, which was the home of the Ku Klux Klan and the Nazi Party, and those vibes are still here. Especially with some of the people. Some of the people on the assembly have been there 50 years. Anyway, so I said, Abdu'l-Baha, how am I supposed to go out and teach Black people? I'm in Glendale, there's no Black people here. Well, I was wrong. So I just got dressed and went out and I said, I stood in the middle of the street and I said, I'm not moving until Abdu'l-Baha, you show me where to go because I don't know what to do, okay? So I felt his hand at my back and I went in a certain direction, turned a corner, and there was definitely a Black man standing there. And I said, hi, did you know you're noble? Did you know you're blessed and highly favored and you are the light? And you are a person of the pupil of the eye. And that's where the light comes in and then you shed your light all over the world. And that's a station given to all people of African descent and Africans by Baha'u'llah. Who? Baha'u'llah. It means the glory of God. And he is the manifestation of God for this day. And then I say, do you have a phone? Or whatever, I just play it by ear. And then instead of a card, I have them go to BahaiTeachings.org and I have them bookmark it. And if they're still interested, I tell them where they are in Glendale and I show them my video of my part in resolving the law, the Sundowners Law. It's just amazing. I go out every single day, Saturday, Sunday, every day, different times. I used to go out only at night. Now I go night, day, whatever Abdu'l-Baha says. One day I reached 14 souls because I stayed out practically all night. I didn't have any balance in this teaching. I thought, I just got to keep going because there's nobody else on the street. Now I'm a little bit more moderate. And if I remember and this is all because of the Pody night, the Foundation Hall, because I can't do this by myself. And I certainly know that. And my biggest struggle is to remember to call on Abdu'l-Baha before I speak to anyone, because sometimes he lets me know, no there, don't go there. So it's meant everything to me. You know how they say there's nothing new under the sun? This is new. This is very new under the sun. Barbara Talley's new under the sun, and all of the work she does, and everybody. So it's really meant a lot to me, especially when I get to talk to babies. Tell them Baha'u'llah loves you. Remember Baha'u'llah, little 3 and 4 year olds. I say, can you say Baha'u'llah? And their parents encourage them. This is what their parents start teaching them. And these are not Baha'is. These are just Black people, either from Africa, Uganda. I meet Black people from everywhere. Some of them live in Glendale and some don't. But some of them are like shopping. And I say, where do you live? Inglewood? Well, why to come to Glendale? Oh, I don't know. We just thought we should come here today. Yeah, I know why. Because you have to hear about Baha'u'llah. And some say, I wasn't even going to come to this store. And they say, I think I came to hear that. I said, yes, you did. Yes, you did. I don't know where it's going to lead to. I'm not thinking about results. Now, people say, well, why don't you have these people come to these spaces? Because that's not what it's about yet. I'm a seed dropper right now. Right now. Could change. So I got to get my shoes polished and get out there after this. And that's what I do. And it's because I had a place to realize who I am. I've always taught the faith. Oh, and lately I've been given the opportunity to teach. Okay, so there's a Black man and a white woman. Abdu'l-Baha, do you want me to talk to these people? So I just go up to them. First, I approach the Black man and tell him who he is. I told you what my spiel is, and it changes sometimes. Then I look at his wife, or whoever she is, and I tell her, your path is to help us change the world. You're represented by the white part. You understand? Yes. Some of them are very much into it. But I met this one couple in Rouse, and I told the man, and he was beaming. He was so happy. Thank you, thank you. His wife was a big blonde woman, and she stood in front of me. I said, oh, you have a path too. You have to love this man to death. You have to encourage him in all his endeavors. You're represented by the sclera. I always have. I said, you got to do it more now. We're in a crisis. More. And he was laughing and he was so happy, and she was getting angry. But then I prayed for them that there will be no disunity. So I'm sure they'll be okay. And maybe she'll realize. But it's just interesting. First, I only met Black people. And I don't meet Black and white all the time. Sometimes I meet Asian and Black, and the Asian people are really into it too. It's just like, but it only depends on the spirit of Abdu'l-Baha. It's got nothing to do with me. The only part I have in this is the color of my skin, my melanin. That's the only part, because I can't do anything, and I mean that. Words won't be right unless I say, Abdu'l-Baha, what do you want me to say? The hardest part is remembering every time, because I'm doing this all day long, not all day long, but I mean, so you get a little cocky. Oh, I can just talk to this person now. No, I can't. I have to ask him first. So that's the deal.
Yes, thank you so much, Carol. I appreciate that. And this woman, 80 years old, going out every night teaching. What excuse does anybody else have? And now I want to line up in the queue Beverly Freeman. The music that you heard at the beginning, she's the one that sang that. So tell us, what does this Podi movement, Pupil of the Eye, and your interaction with that, how has that affected your life and your faith and your service to the faith? Go ahead, Beth.
I started in Los Angeles back in late 90s. And my godparents in the faith are Judy Hank Culp, Russell Garcia's daughter. And, you know, I was instantly moved by the writings of Baha'u'llah. I was like, you know, if that dude could write so eloquently in spite of all that was happening to him. That's pretty profound to me. And so I was presented with the question, well, do what do you feel? And I said, well, yeah, I believe Baha'u'llah is who they say he is. And they said, well, then that means you're a Baha'i. And I said, well, I guess I'm a Baha'i. And so that conversation brought me to Marin County. And Marin County is predominantly white. So I got here and people for the most part look at me pretty strange, because I sing loud, kind of, I'm from South Central Los Angeles. And so it got to the point where, I had to kind of look outside the faith for spiritual sustenance. I come from a background rich. I come from the home of West Coast gospel music. I came up under James Cleveland, Thurston Frazier, Margaret Duro, Hamilton, Kenneth Omer. And so I was raised in California, the gospel experience. And so, I come here to Marin County. The book, I had just become a Baha'i in 99 and 98 or 99. So I get here in 99 and I'm in an all-white community and it's pretty dry. And I tried to do some stuff and it just didn't work out. And I wouldn't be included when we have a holy day. They would do things the same old way and they were really dry. So I decided to go outside the Baha'i faith and I decided I wasn't going to do both things. I didn't want to go join a church for a spiritual sustenance and because I was under this oppression, you couldn't do both. So I left the faith because it was very dry. It didn't include my experience of spiritual expression. So I left the faith. And it was in, I think, last year, the end of last year for Kwanzaa. I found out about the Pody Barbara Talley was doing a Kwanzaa program. And
the dialogue Kwanzaa. Yeah.
And that's what made me come. I came, I attended I think they did something for the whole 7 days. And I was reintroduced to the Podies, and it was it was like coming home and just learning about who I am as a Pody has been very enriching, and I look forward to working and deepening in the faith and teaching others, Pody and non-Pody, about the faith. So I owe everything to all the work that Barbara Talley has done and the Pody movement. And I'm just so inspired. I was asked to be a part of the concert for the Rise conference. And, the rest is history. I wrote this song and I didn't write the song. I took one of my favorite chants. Well, I took that and put it to some hip music, and the rest is history. I love that chant, and so I put it to some other music. And so thank you, Barbara Talley, for all, and Ya Baha'u'llah.
Ya Baha'u'llah. Welcome home, Beverly.
I can go next, Barbara. I'll have to say though that after listening to Taki and Beverly, my experience of pain is not markedly different. And what I will say about the Arise tsunami that came after the groundbreaking earthquake is that I would not have recognized prior how much I needed the spaces that have expanded since. About a year before the first Arise conference, I started hosting a Pody only devotional, and it provided a space for people to heal, but I didn't realize until the Arise conference that on a grander scale, how desperately needed the spaces were. and how healing and refreshing they could be. So since the Arise conference and the time on Foundation Hall University, I am someone who before, well, I guess when Sue did the first book 8 that was focused on race, I was in that, but it was a fairly even mix of Podi Sodi. And that got me back on the path of, actually, I wouldn't say back on the path. It started me on the path of actually enjoying and looking forward to Ruhi, because before I did it because out of obedience to the Universal House of Justice, not because I understood the point of it at all. But that book 1 changed the trajectory of my Ruhi life. And so now, if you had told me, even at the Arise conference, in a couple of years, you're going to be in not 1, but 2 book 8s. And you're going to be looking forward to it. It's going to be must-see TV for you. You know, you're not going to miss it. Nothing's going to interfere with it. I would have laughed until I hurt myself. But those spaces are incredible. They're so healing. They're so revivifying. And last night when we talked about Hukukula, I realized for the first time the prospect of doing an all Podi Hukuk 12 course lessons actually excites me. So, you know, I do the 12 lessons because, you know, as a representative, they give us the 12 lessons, they ask us to do them, and I enjoy doing them. But this is the first time I've actually been excited about the prospect of doing 12 lessons. And it's not something, you know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have recognized I needed. So I've, my thirst has been slaked when I didn't realize I was thirsty.
Well, thank you, Carol. And Carol also is on the faculty of the Wilmette course. She has a space that she does regularly to bring Podi together for devotionals. And we see each other every morning at dawn. My dawn is like 7, hers is like 6 a.m. So for 90 days, we've been coming together, talking, you know, learning about the life of Abdu'l-Baha. We're all connected to each other, not in just one space. It's not a concert we do. I mean, it's not a conference we do once a year. It's not just FHU where we come. We may meet at Black Friday. We meet at all of these spaces. It's like family. We see each other when we see each other. And here's the thing: we see each other. I've often said to people, and I heard it from Oprah, said, "Do you see me? Do you hear me? Does what I say matter to you?" And we know that the Guardian says that every community listed under the banner of Baha'u'llah must feel its first and inescapable obligation to nurture, encourage, and safeguard all the minorities in their midst. And that's what we do. We have these spaces where everybody say, "I'm healed, I'm healed, I'm healed," because they can come in, you know, any way they are. You know, I got some folks that say, "I don't even really want to see any white people." I'm like, come on in, that's okay. You know, things change, and you know, but let's heal each other. And so thank you so much, Carol, for that. Go ahead, Carmen.
Well, what I was doing before the Arise Conference 2019 in Nashville, Tennessee, was actually not active in the Baha'i community. I live walking distance from the center, and I would try to go several times to, you know, just to say, okay, give it one more shot. Give it one more shot. And I would go and I would tend something at the center, and I don't even know how to say it. I just didn't feel anything. I didn't see me there. I didn't see many who looked like me there. I just didn't, I guess, have that feeling I was looking for. So I definitely love Baha'u'llah, Abdu'l-Baha, Shoghi Effendi, and this faith, but I couldn't see myself at that center. Well, then Sue St. Clair sent me a text for this Arise conference. Before that, I hadn't heard much from anyone. And so if anybody knows Sue St. Clair, once she get a hold of you, no is not an option. So I signed up for the conference, and she was impatient she said, "Don't worry about sending the money right now, we'll get it." So she did get it. And I'm here to tell you, after that conference, I have not stopped. One, I have not stopped teaching. I have not stopped attending all functions. I participate in the foundation hall, however I could support it. I even attempt to go to some feast, but I am definitely every day attending the prayer call, foundation hall, anything. Barbara has Pody nights, diaspora, I'm there. Just really excited. This is the excitement that I needed. Even book 8, I'm even going back to book 1. I'm also with Clyde, Naima, Ruby. We have a Made It Home, those who have lost a child or son. We've started meeting every morning at 5:30. Yes, we were up at 5:30 this morning talking. Um, just in love, back in love with what I originally found in this faith. I just fell back in love with it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Clyde, could you go ahead and say a little bit more about the Made It Home group and how it came about from this Pody movement?
Sure, thank you.
And thank you, Carmen. Yeah.
I first would like to say that everybody, all the testimonies they're all my testimonies. So I will not repeat anything. Everything that everybody has mentioned, I say amen. And I feel like we're in church. Like, in church you testify. And everybody been testifying. I'm telling you, it's like, So the Made It Home. I lost my son 2020 in March. And then I lost my sister in February of the same year. But after I lost my son, 10 years ago, he had a heart transplant. And so that was basically the cause of his passing. I'm sure COVID had a lot to do with it as well. And I was on Foundation Hall. Of course, I attended Arise in Tennessee and met Barbara Talley. And I had been on the prayer call for a while, and I was on Foundation Hall. And Barbara Talley reached out to me and she said, I know you're grieving the loss of your son. And there's some sisters that I want you to meet because they have lost sons as well. So she introduced me to Carmen. And then Carmen introduced me to Ruby Rucker. And then I was introduced to Nanyama, who lives in Maryland. And we started to support one another, grief support group. And I think we've been in existence now about a year. And it's just been, it's a lifesaver. And our sons were all so much alike, and they were entrepreneurs, and they were around the same age. And there's so many things that, that are so, that they share. And so it has been, for me, it has been a lifesaver because I was the one that lost their son most recently. And these sisters had gone through a lot, and we still go through it. So what we've decided to do is that we're all Baha'i women, and we're all Black women. And what we've decided to do is to invite other women and their husbands, their significant others as well, who have lost. We really want to focus on losing a child and a son. So now we have at least about 2 or 3 women who are not Baha'is who would like to join our support group. And we also have one woman who was a friend of our dear friend, Nat. I forgot about Nat. Nat White was part of our group, and he passed away a couple of months ago. And one of his dear friends who's been grieving his loss, we gather with her periodically and say the removal difficulties and offer prayers and support. So the name of the group is They Made It Home. And very grateful to Barbara for introducing me to Carmen, and Carmen introducing me to Ruby and Nanyuma. And so that's just one of the things that has come from that. And also I'm part of a sister-to-sister group, which I live in New York, so it's the New York Tri-State group. And Dr. Rabi Musah has been very instrumental in assisting us with that. We started last August, and I think now we're in our 10th gathering where we invite our family and friends of African descent to come and join us on a Zoom once a month. And that is very exciting and moving as well. And we all are learning that we are indeed blessed and highly favored. So thank you.
And thank you, Clyde. And one thing, Clyde worked in New York for the international community. I mean, her life was Baha'i. And yet, prior to Arise, she also was on the edge, not necessarily tending. Just say a couple of sentences about that. How did Arise bring you back?
Okay,
I
was taking notes, because I had so much to say and so much on my mind. But I was thinking about, I also, in the late 90s, when the Universal House of Justice encouraged Baha'is of African descent to go to Africa, I answered that call and I went to Zimbabwe to teach the faith for 3 weeks. So I guess that was like the beginning. And I've always known about the metaphor of the people of the eye. And I've read Gwen Etta Lewis' book and Richard Thomas' book on, years ago. But I think it was 2018, maybe someone can correct me, when we got a letter from the Universal House of Justice talking about teaching African Americans, indigenous people, and recent immigrants. And I went to a feast in my cluster, and the host said, the letter's very long. You can read it at home. And there were only 2 African Americans at that feast, and maybe there were 40 people there, mostly Persian and from the Middle East, and and I just couldn't believe it, and then I was distraught. And one of the friends stood up and said, no, we will read this letter now. And another friend stood up and said, now we will read this letter. This letter is from the Universal House of Justice. So I was heartbroken by that. And also just in succession, letters, correspondence from National Spiritual Assembly that's focused on teaching African Americans and indigenous people and recent immigrants. The friends in my cluster just didn't want to discuss it. They felt like we don't have a problem. I don't know why they're making it a problem. So I just became so disenchanted. So Nancy Ewing and I decided to gather together some of the sisters in the tri-state, Connecticut, New York area, and we were all feeling the same way. And so we basically had the same idea as Barbara Talley. We just didn't know how to pull it together. And then we got this email from Barbara Talley talking about an Arise conference. And we all got together, put our pennies together, shared the rooms together, helped each other with their airfare. And we went to Nashville. And we have not, I'm getting chills now. We have not been the same. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Clyde. And if we had more time, every one of these people speaking could tell you a whole lot of stories. When I first had this idea to do this, I was like, I wanted to talk to people who are on the edge like me. As many people said they were on a string, I literally was depressed. I was literally thinking, I can't do this anymore. I got to have life. I got to have energy. I can't be waiting for permission. I got to be around people who are watching us dying and caring that we're dying. And so, I felt that, the institutions were doing their thing and the learned and the elected, but still I was, thinking, am I the only one? So I put out a survey to find out, am I the only one feeling like this? And I found that, oh my God, no, you're not the only one. That was one of the emphasis for the conference. And of course the admonitions to say the Oglesby. But another thing was, it was very clear to me that this had to be a grassroots thing that was not institutions. And so I basically wasn't inviting any institution folks. I was just like, let's just be down here because even though we're not replicating churches, people felt that they wouldn't be able to speak freely if institutions were there. And then along came Rabi. Still institution, I'm thinking, do I have to break my rule? Because I was telling everybody, no, let's just have our conversation. I didn't even know what was going to happen. The Spirit just said, if you build it, they will come. If you schedule it, they will come. And so I reached out to Rabi. I'd met her because I'd been a delegate at the convention a few years at that point. And she had told me the story about her father. Well, actually, Karen had told me about her father. And I said, oh my God, we got to have that story there. And I said, can you come just as a woman? Let's just figure out on just a grassroots level. And she said, I prefer. She was just newly elected to the institute. She said, I prefer to come. And she immediately said yes. And so she was there from the beginning at 2019. On 2020, she did a talk on blessed and highly favored. And then Clyde said, hey, come do this. And, there's that whole stream of 10 weeks that Clyde was talking about. Rabi, would you come on and say, I remember Rabi said, I don't like these spaces where y'all going to make me cry because Rabi's Rabi. And so, but we were messing with Rabi with all of the praying and the drumming and all that. Rabi, would you come on and say a few words now?
How
Good
wonderful
afternoon.
it is to be with everybody and hear these stories. These stories are amazing. I actually, Barbara, have nothing to add to these amazing stories.
I want to hear your story. How were you affected by Arise?
Clyde made an interesting comment. She basically said that every story was her story, right? You know, there are themes that have resonated with all of these. And so, you know, as I said, I have nothing new to add on that front, right? What I can say is that, you know, I'm a member of a an Advent of Divine Justice deepening, and we actually met earlier this morning. And it's great because we can take our time and go through this book, and we've been on the book for over a year. And I think we do a paragraph a meeting or something, you know, because we go deep. And we're in that section of Advent of Divine Justice. And I just happen to have it here because I just came off of that, where it's where the guardian first introduces, you know, how he describes rectitude of conduct, and then he describes, you know, a chaste and holy life. And then he goes into, for the first time, race prejudice. And he says, as to race prejudice, the corrosion of which for well nigh a century has bitten into the fabric of the nation and all of that. At the end of that paragraph, he says something really interesting. He says, talking about race prejudice and working on it, the Baha'is working on it, because this is the part where he says, let neither think that, you know, the problem rests with the other, and that only one side can work on the problem. And so he says, on the distance they cover and the manner in which they travel that road must depend, to an extent which few among them can imagine, the operation of those intangible influences which are indispensable to the spiritual triumph of the American believers and the material success of their newly launched enterprise. And my interpretation of this at this point is that the way we do it and the distance we cover is really going to define our success. So it reminded me, because the Guardian says that if we stay on this road, we will invoke the operation of these, what he calls intangible influences. And so when we read that today, it reminded me of this quotation, which has been attributed to Abdul Baha, which I'll read, because I just think this is amazing. And then I'll like close off. So I'm going to read this from my screen. There is a power in this cause, a mysterious power, far, far, far away from the ken of men and angels. That invisible power is the source of all these outward activities. It moves the hearts. It rends the mountains. It administers the complicated affairs of the cause. It inspires the friends. It dashes into 1,000 pieces all the forces of opposition. It creates new spiritual worlds. This is the mystery of the kingdom of Abha. And I'm bringing this up in light of what this topic is here this afternoon, because we know that familiar refrain from the Bab's prayer, that which God hath willed have been, that which he hath not willed shall not be. What is amazing to me about, among many things, but one of the things that's amazing to me about these spaces is that in these spaces, we invoke and invite this power that is beyond the ken, beyond the understanding, these spiritual forces. And these testimonies, one after another, that talk about how people who were hanging on miraculously by 1 or 2 fingernails were drawn back in. Sort of like if you've played with magnets, you know that if you have a stick pin and you have a magnet, and you bring the magnet just close enough to the pin, there is a distance where they're not touching, but if you move the magnet, the pin comes along. Sort of like that. And it is truly amazing and magnificent to see how would I, Carol Mansour mentioned how she was obedient. She was doing all the things we were asked to do. But she says after coming through this portal, she came out, well, I wouldn't say she came out, we're still in it. Okay. We're here. And what the transformation that has occurred is that she said, and I interacted with Carol before these gatherings, right? We're all in our different places and we're being obedient. And she mentioned that she came in and she's in 2 Book 8 study circles. And she's enjoying. She says, what does she call it? Must see TV? Must see? She said, must see something, right? That's magnificent. That's this power. And that's what happens when you gather a group of souls together, such as has been gathered here in these spaces, right? Unencumbered by being outnumbered, unencumbered by feeling maligned and not heard and not seen and not listened to. And then when you go through that, it's like there's this profound experience that you have. And the beauty of the experience, one beauty of the experience is that it enables us to come back to the house of justice. And it's amazing. It's amazing. So, Barbara, that's what I would say. There's more, but you got a long list of people who are far more eloquent. But this allows us to be the Robert Turners, in essence, of this plan and of the plans of the House of Justice. So thank you to all of you. This is magnificent.
Well, thank you, Rabi, also for just being there. And even when I'm tired, you push me back up and send me a quote, I'm like, yes, okay, that'll get me to the next line. So thank you so much, Rabi. And I hope what everybody is experiencing here is this camaraderie, this unity, there's an invisible power that's knitting us all together. Like she said, that magnet. And one of the ways Rabi described it when she was describing what happened at the first arrival, she said people came in on stretchers and they came on. Oh,
you want me to tell my testimony?
Yeah.
Is that my personal testimony?
Yes, I want to hear that one.
What I'm going to share with you is how I felt in the space. Sue St. Clair was tearfully talking about how the thing that moved her was she was standing in the lobby and she was just seeing these folks coming in droves, and she'd just never seen anything like that before, right? So she was describing her personal stuff. So I'm going to share with you how I felt, how my heart felt. It felt like I had been in a blizzard. Now, just so you understand, maybe you all like blizzards, but I grew up in Africa. Ain't no blizzards in Africa, okay? And no snow and none of that, right? So cold is a problem for me. But it felt like I was in a blizzard and I had been in a blizzard and it was whiteout conditions. And I stumbled upon a service station. And I entered into the service station. I could barely get the door open because of the wind and the fierce storm. And when I shut the door, all around me was everything that you could possibly want. If you needed to sit by the fire and warm your feet, you could do that. If you needed to fill your gas tank, you could do that. If you needed a cup of soup, you could do that. If you wanted to find a group of people to sit at a table and play spades or bid whist, you could do that. If you needed to go to the infirmary to get some medication, you could do that. If you needed surgery, you could do that. If you needed to lie down on a stretcher and have people pray over you, you could do that. It felt like I looked up, and when the door would open so other people would come in, some of them were on stretchers. Some of them had been brought by ambulance. Some of them had been flown in by helicopter. Some of them, 2 or 3, had come in on a bus. Some of them had taken multiple modes of transportation to arrive at the same spot. But however you got there, some of them had been dragged, or as my grandmother said, drugged, okay? Some of them, you know, they didn't know they needed to be there till they got there. And everybody got filled with what they needed. It wasn't what somebody else was prescribing. It was just a space where whatever you needed, you could get. And that, to me, is magical, it's divine, it's spiritual. That is a unique kind of medication. The kind of medication where it doesn't just get rid of a symptom. It's the kind of thing that you give to a person, whatever it is that they need gets addressed. And it just felt, you know, sometimes, this is the first Arise conference, sometimes I felt like I was sitting at my grandmother's table eating cornbread with catfish and hot sauce. And sometimes it felt like, you know, it just felt whatever I needed, I got. And so, believe it or not, that's the abridged version. But that's just my personal, just how I felt, how my heart felt in that space. And I have to tell you, I'm not going to cry, so I'm not going to talk about this too much, but I'll say this. You know, the thing that moved me, Sue talked about what moved her. What moved me was looking into the eyes of these souls. You could look in their eyes and see that they had just they were barely holding on. And suddenly they were alive. And they'd been resuscitated. It was like they had been in an emergency room for 20 years or 15 years or however much long they had been in the emergency room in their community. And suddenly somebody, I don't know what they call the paddles that they put on your heart to bring you back when your heart stops. And every time I couldn't look in people's eyes, because if I had looked in everybody's eyes, I couldn't have stayed at the conference. Because everybody was being resuscitated. They were, you know. So anyway, it's my testimony.
That's what I wanted to hear, Rabi. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you so much. And as I said, every one of these, we could probably spend a half an hour or more on the stories. But our hearts have been woven together. So we've been sharing these stories for the 3, over the years. And Rabi's always been a supporter. She's at every Arise conference and other spaces. She can be always supporting us. Thank you so much. Cynthia Phillips, are you there? I want Cynthia to share. And Aurora Denise, if you want to share a little bit, and then we're going to bring on Huda and Christian, because it's not just our hearts that we've changed. We've connected to some very beautiful Sodis. So Cynthia also in the background with Black Fridays has always been there with the sound and letting people in the waiting room. So I don't do it all. I got a lot of folks that are there saying, let me help you with this thing. I may not be able to know where you want, but just tell me where to be and I can do that thing, you know. So Cynthia, why don't you share now?
Wow. Rabi really captured what a lot of us are feeling. So I guess when I think about what this holy movement means to me, I guess it would be fair to say something like, lead me, guide me along the way. For if you lead me, I will not stray. Lord, let me walk each day. Lead me, oh Lord, lead me. I guess for me, starting with the Pody conference in 2019, when we had so many people who were thirsty and were being fed, I realized how lonely I was and how, even though I never left the faith, how I felt so disrespected and unheard. And especially if I brought up anything that had to do with race. And so I got my joy back. I started singing again, and for the first time in my life, I actually started writing music. So what the conference has done for me is that and the whole movement is that it's teaching me to discover my potential and to be willing to express myself when I'm teaching, and to know that it's okay, and to not ask for permission to be me in whatever way that means when I'm out there teaching, and to know that it is my responsibility and I don't have to have permission. I just have to be respectful and follow the covenant, and that does mean to center Podies, especially in these times. And so one of the things that I have done is I have created some free teaching Baha'i music, and it can be found under YouTube, Cynthia Phillips Baha'i, and it's free. And I would ask that you use it, change it, add music to it, whatever you like. But it's my small contribution. It's teaching music of all genres. So you know, it basically I found a home, and I'm starting to just feel that spirit, not just the day-to-day administration of the faith. And you know, we're good at administration, but we're bad at having that feeling. And when I think about the church that I came from, the Christian background, and how they were the great women singers, and how you'd never had church, even if you go to a white Christian church today, the music is first and foremost, and the Black singers are always centered, and the music is always there, no matter what the race is, and that is the spirit of the faith. And we're learning to bring back that space, that spirit, and to make the Baha'i faith look like the Americans, you know, and not some foreign religion. And therefore now we can invite people into the space and not be embarrassed because it's boring or it looks foreign and they don't recognize. And so they'll want to come back and they'll want to stay. So that's what this podium movement means to me. I now have spaces where I can bring people and, you know, and teach it, and it'll be interesting. It's something that they're familiar with. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Aurora, Denise, are you there? I know that you're at FAQ, and that space has helped you. If you want to say a couple words, you can, but don't feel like you're on the spot.
I just wanted to say that as I listened to, of course, everybody's testimonies, we wouldn't be here, I think, almost if we didn't share that. I've not done any of the action things that others have done. I'm not there yet. I'm still healing. My wounds, I feel, are compounded with mental health issues, very severe, extreme mental health issues. And but what I do want to say, and right now I feel I'm kind of in a relapse, and so I'm kind of back there, and coming to being able to attend the 2019. When I heard about it, I thought, I don't know what I'm gonna have to do to get there. You know that song, I don't care how you get there, but get there when you can, how you can. And I did, and for me right now, I come because this is my lifeline. And when I say that, I mean literally, this is keeping me alive. I deal a lot with suicidal ideation, and for those who know, there's a difference. It's suicide is you got the plans, you know, maybe one step away. Ideation, you think about it all the time, and I also learned that if you say ideation, they don't hospitalize you. If you say suicide, they call the cops and then they're at the door. So, you know, you learn the jargon after so many years. Before I became a Baha'i, it took me a while because I said, this is the last chance. And I'd been so disappointed, and I said, if this turns out to be a disappointment, I really felt at that point that was it. I was going out. I wasn't going to be here anymore. There was no need. There was nothing. And so I came to the Baha'i faith looking for that refuge, and it was there for a short time, and then fell into what many of us have fallen into. You know, it was like, oh my God. Well, by then I had 3 really good teachers who said, your relationship is to Baha'u'llah and Baha'u'llah only, not to me. In fact, my main teacher actually left the faith for a while, and everybody was saying, oh, you know, and I said, no, it doesn't matter. She taught me my relationship is to Baha'u'llah. And I think that when I hear the stories, that's what keeps us in. And the guardian has said that that's one of the qualities very much needed by the of the pupil of the eye, that is much needed in the world and in the community. He says it's their loyalty to their faith when once they believe. And there's about 2 or 3 others that he names that he says are needed in the world and the community. And I have family now. Most of my, you know, that my family has all gone. My mother, my father, my sister, my brother. But I've reconnected with sorry.
Take your time, Aurora. We're your family. We're your family. Take your time, hon. We're here for you. And what you're hearing is when you ask what's Cody, you might have some very vocal folks like me out there, but I'm creating spaces for people like Aurora and some of the others to say, look, you can come home here. You can come in any condition. Like Rabi could said it so eloquently. Stretchers, ambulance. Some people are still there. Some people are ready to go back out in the storm. Some people are not ready yet. And as she said, this is a lifeline. Thank you, Aurora. If you want, I can see this is very tough for you, so I don't want to, I don't want you to pain too much. But I appreciate you just saying what Aurora is saying is there are people that have mental illness and they have other kinds of things, and some in many places don't have spaces for them. No. And they have to suffer alone. But now she's got family again, and she knows she has that. Thank you so much, Aurora, for sharing. And probably in one of these future ones where we showcase some other folks, maybe, you might want to share some other things. But I want you to know how I see you, I hear you, and what you say matters. You matter to us.
But I did. I was able to get Barbara's number, and I called her and to ask her about coming to People of the Eye, and she just opened up the space. And since then, and she also gave me an opportunity to facilitate, which I'd like to do again. And I've been a Baha'i almost 50 years. No one ever asks me to do anything. They don't ask me to speak. I've lived abroad. I was one of the first on the Sisters to go to Africa. And I just find my community people, when I talk literally on Zoom, they get up, they walk away. They don't come back to the Zoom. I just want to say to you, Barbara, and to everybody there, thank you. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you. And just so you know, Aurora, I think we got you on our regular Tuesday lineup. So we got you. We got a space for you. You matter.